Well, folks, I really wish I could stop talking about this story because it's complete nonsense. But yeah, it continues to happen. Even with this second Trump administration, he's signed executive orders. He's made plain and clear where he stands on this issue and what's going to happen to the folks who go against what he says on this issue. You're not going to receive federal funding. You're going to be punished because this nonsense continues to happen. And we're going to get into this video. But real quick, folks, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe down below. Also, I'll put my X in the description down below. If you guys would follow me there as well, I'd greatly appreciate it. So let's get into this episode of Out of Right Field with JP. USA Fencing had an incident this past week where we had a female fencer going up against a male fencer. Stephanie Turner went up against this guy named Redmond Sullivan, pretending to be a female, who fenced in the males league last year and now suddenly had this epiphany and figured out he's a woman and now decided to fence against women. And Stephanie Turner was his next opponent. But Stephanie Turner decided to bravely take a knee and not put herself in danger of going up against this male. Here it is. So this event took place at the University of Maryland this past week, where you saw in the video Stephanie Turner courageously taking a knee and refusing to fence against this male opponent. Because, folks, fencing is a sport that it's a sport where somebody with a clear advantage, and not just a little advantage, like a big-time advantage. We're talking reach. We're talking instinctive, quickness, which we've seen that males are instinctively just have faster reflexes than females. Obviously, strength. Every single advantage you could think of in fencing, Redmond Sullivan had over Stephanie Turner. Because why? He's a male. He is a male, and I don't care how much he wants to act like he's a female or, whatever hormones he wants to take or whatever. The baseline of his strengths, his male DNA will always be a part of him. So he will always have an advantage over females like Stephanie Turner in fencing. So that could leave Stephanie Turner up to serious injuries, could end her career maybe if, God forbid, something bad were to happen. Like, she was putting herself at a great disadvantage, but also putting herself up for a great injury if she decided to fence against Redmond Sullivan in that match. Here's her on Fox News explaining her reasoning as to why she decided to take a knee against this man. Here it is.
There's nothing for me and there's everything for him, because I have no choice as a woman, as a female, in where I compete. I am a woman and I have an athletic disadvantage to men, so I compete in the women's division, which is where I rightfully am. But he has been given this opportunity to fence in the women's division, and he can easily compete in the men's division. He can also compete at mixed events in local tournaments if he wants. There is a place for him. So the idea that they're expanding the women's is just essentially making it an open tournament that can include men, and it ends up hurting me and other girls.
Folks, if you thought that it was bad that the man ended up going up against Stephanie Turner in the first place, just wait until you see USA Fencing's statement on this matter. Here it is. I'm putting it up on the screen for you right now. Said that USA Fencing remains committed to fostering an inclusive, respectful community for everyone in our sport. We believe in the principle of creating safe communities where all athletes and community members have a place. While we understand there are a range of perspectives, USA Fencing will continue to engage in a respectful, research-based dialogue and review as policy evolves in the Olympic and Paralympic movement, as well as domestic law. Hate speech or targeted hate of any kind is not acceptable online or in person. Let's keep the conversation respectful and the strip welcoming to all. Before I get into the part that really drives me up a wall with it, if you notice in their research-based dialogue, clearly they're not doing their research because, like I said earlier, all research shows that males have a distinct advantage against females when it comes to physical anything, physical sport. Period. The end. Strength, reflexes, all of the above. Everything you can think of in a sport, especially fencing for that matter, where a male could have an advantage over a female, they do. That's just the bottom line, okay? But here's the part that really gets me upset and really mad for that matter. USA Fencing talking about we will not allow any hate speech, and USA Fencing saying that we want an inclusive and safe environment for everyone in our sport. No, you don't, okay? Why? Because you put Stephanie Turner at a risk to get herself seriously, seriously hurt. And if it wasn't for her being brave enough to stand up for herself, it would have happened. And, there's not 100% guarantee she would have gotten injured. I bet you, I can bet you she would have lost. But the risks of her getting injured are high, very high. And you, USA Fencing, allowed this to happen. You put Stephanie Turner at a great disadvantage and put herself at risk. So I don't want to hear this talk of you care about a safe environment for all of your athletes because you're just lying. Stephanie Turner was not put in a safe environment last week. She was put in a very unsafe environment, and she was put in a great risk, and because of you. So when you say a safe environment, what you're talking about is you don't want people being mean to the men who are trying to act like females. That's what you mean. Guys, don't be mean to those guys. But what speaks louder than than words? Action. What speaks louder and has a greater effect than anyone being mean to Redmond Sullivan on the internet, what has a greater effect in that is Redmond Sullivan hurting females. That's what goes a way longer way than words, okay? Because Redmond Sullivan, who gets his feelings hurt, well, guess what? Stephanie Turner gets actually hurt, ends up in the hospital. Nobody says a dang thing. USA Fencing doesn't say a dang thing about it if that happens. They just don't. That doesn't get any headlines it'll get headlines from people like Fox News and folks on the right who are rightfully so talking about this matter. But if we're talking about the rest of mainstream media, they wouldn't have said a dang thing about it. And USA Fencing for sure wouldn't have lifted a thumb to put up a statement. That is for sure. I can guarantee you that. So this inclusive and safe environment, all you mean is that you're protecting people from saying mean stuff to men playing in women's sports. You don't actually want safe environments for your athletes, okay? Because like I said, Stephanie Turner had to stick up for herself and USA Fencing wouldn't do anything to protect her. That is your job if you are a governing body or you are holding these events. Part of your job and your responsibility is to protect the athletes who are playing in it, okay? And that includes females going up against men. You should have a responsibility to make sure the men are playing in the men field and the women are playing in the women field. Period, the end. Redmond Sullivan himself was playing in the men field last year before he had this epiphany that he was a female. That doesn't change anything about his biology. That doesn't change a dang thing about his biology. So in this matter, what you should have done, if you had any respect for yourself or integrity, was stick up for Stephanie Turner and make sure she didn't have to go up against Redmond Sullivan. But you didn't. You let it happen. But the worst part of this story, I think, is this guy. And excuse me, I have to bring up my phone to remember his name again. His name is Damian Leffeld. Damian Leffeld, who is the chair of USA Fencing. He decided to go on a social media tirade and attack people who were rightfully pointing out that this egregious thing happened. Here's a post he put up on Instagram where he got a question. Send me anonymous messages, guys. Someone said, are you okay with cis females being at a disadvantage? Yeah, he is. That's what he said. He said it himself. He said, yeah, I am. But then he decided to air out emails that were sent to him from parents who have daughters who fence. And if you want to pause the video and read the email, this email came from a female named Dorothy who was expressing her concern after seeing what happened with Stephanie Turner going up against a man, and expressed how she is concerned for her daughters who have to compete in fencing if this would happen to them. Okay? Meanwhile, folks, this is the chair of USA Fencing. The chair of USA Fencing. Like the guy in charge. Here's his response. Dear Dorothy, the year is 2023, and as it turns out, you're not in Kansas anymore. It said that my daughter will compete against any woman, period. If she loses to a woman of any variety, first of all, there's no women of any variety. There's women, okay, period. You saying women of any variety you're validating the fact that males who are pretending to be women are a different variety of women. They're not a woman at all, okay? Anyways, I continue. Said that I'm not going to pull her from the sport and write a whiny email announcing my departure. That's a great lesson to teach your kids. At this rate, they'll overcome adversity with the same zeal as a livid Karen in a department store. You don't deserve the name Dorothy. You're a cowardly lion, and the only wizard that's going to dig you out of the myopic hole you've put yourself and your family in is the one of the grand wizard variety. You bore me with these emails. Be on your merry way down the yellow brick road. First of all, I hope he feels proud of himself for using big fancy words when he really is an idiot. Dorothy, who sent you that email, is not cowardly. You are cowardly, Damien. You are the coward in this situation. You are allowing men to run the women out of your sport. You just got an email from a concerned parent who has daughters competing in your organization, USA Fencing, and expressing her concern that you, Damien, fail to protect women that participate in your sport. Young women, young girls. And your response to that is to go on a morally righteous tirade, and shame on you, Dorothy, for wanting to protect your own daughters. No, shame on you, Damien. You shouldn't even be allowed 100 feet within a young woman. To be frank with you, you disgust me, and you're a creep. Because you're not standing up for the women in your sport. You're not standing up for the young girls that are participating in your league. You're kowtowing to the left. You're kowtowing. Well, you're a part of the radical left. I could tell from that email. And you think you're quirky. Funny me. I'm posting these emails that I'm getting from concerned parents. Gosh, these guys these Karens are so weird, guys. Look at them. And then posting, yeah, I am okay with cis girls being at a disadvantage. Yeah, he said it himself. Damien Leftfeld should not be in charge of anything, especially involving the safety of young girls. Damien Leftfeld should resign immediately, and USA Fencing should be ashamed of itself that its chair is doing stuff like this. I honestly thought it was kind of fake at first. I thought surely there's no way that this guy, the chair of USA Fencing, is doing this. But you saw the statement that they put out, and then you see this awful and simply egregious behavior from Damien Leftfeld as he went on social media. That just shows you the state that USA Fencing is in right now. And, it drives me up a wall. Donald Trump should do something about this, okay? Somehow, Damien Leftfeld needs to get his job taken away from him. And folks who aren't complying with Trump's executive order to keep men out of women's sports, there needs to be affirmative action. I mean, like I said, federal funding has been stopped to states who allowing their state schools to participate in this. But USA Fencing, I'd be okay if they just lost funding right now until they change this. I don't know how much funding USA Fencing gets. I haven't looked into that matter. But if they are getting any federal funding, I'm fully okay with that being paused until they decide to cooperate with Trump's executive order and get in line and stop this radical nonsense that is going to get young girls hurt and injured. Because if Stephanie Turner has to stick up for herself and you're not doing anything to protect her, you are failing. You're failing as an organization, and something needs to be done about it, okay? So Damien Leftfeld, folks, I put it up right there for you. This is the guy who is allowing this to happen, okay? And I would love to see a movement start to get him to resign. Because like I said, it is completely unacceptable and inappropriate for a chair of an organization to be doing this, to be airing out emails from parents who are just simply concerned parents, by the way, completely rational, normal parents who are concerned if they see what's going on in the organization that their kids are playing in, partaking in. Seeing this happen when they have young girls, they're not the weirdo and they're not the creep. It's Damien Leftfeld in this situation, okay? So I'd love for this nonsense to stop across the board. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to. And it takes brave folks to do something about it. And it also takes brave girls in the situation to do something about it. You saw Stephanie Turner was disqualified and had to forfeit for standing up for herself, okay? But frankly, that is a small price to pay to stop this nonsense, but also to protect the girls who are doing this or partaking in this. They're not doing anything. They're the victim of this. They're the victims of men who couldn't win in their male sport and decided to go over and beat up on younger girls. And it's a shame. It really is a shame that this is, we have to say something about this, but this is something that has to be done about this. This is an epidemic that is starting to go down, starting to slow down a little bit because of Trump's executive orders, but it's still very much there. It's still alive and well, and it will continue to be alive and well until brave people stick up and say something about it. Because, like I said, people like Stephanie Turner shouldn't have to forfeit and lose their fencing match because of this nonsense. She should have a fair shot to compete at the sport that she has worked very hard to get to the level of college fencing. She should be fully able to compete against somebody on a level playing field with her, and there's no uneven advantage, and she should have every opportunity to compete at the sport that she loves. But we're at a point where she can't do that because men are invading her sport. Something has to be done about it. People have to get a voice and stand up and say something about it. That's the only way this nonsense stops, and that's the only way that Damian Leftfeld, loses his job. If it's put up everyone to see Damian Leftfeld, this guy, this creep is allowing this stuff to happen. He needs to lose his job, and every single other person who is in charge of an organization that is allowing this to happen needs to lose their job as well. And I hope they do. If they don't resign themselves, then they need to have their job forcibly taken from them because it's a disgrace. And it's embarrassing. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Out of Right Field with JP. Next week, same time, same channel. Like I said, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe down below. Follow me on X as well. I'd greatly appreciate that. And until next time, I'll see you guys then.